Hello, BookTube. Welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and this is another installment of Fresh Red Kills. So I decided to film outside today, not because it's warm. It's not. You can still see plenty of snow around me. But I was just, frankly, tired of filming on my desk all the time and being cramped inside. So I'm going to endure some of the cold and film out here just for a little bit. I do hope to make a couple videos. Today is Saturday. We'll see how many I get through. I don't know. To begin with, the things that I finished reading. I did finish reading Warfare and Weaponry in Dynastic Egypt by Rebecca Dean. Last week I had said that I was about halfway through. I did end up finishing this, and overall I enjoyed it. There have been many works written about Egyptian warfare. I have not read any of them, but I am aware this is bringing a few things that are new to the field. The first thing is experimental archaeology, where she is actually using Egyptian weapons or, accurate reproductions of them in cut tests to see the damage that it would do. So that's one thing, a nice piece of practical archaeology there. And the other thing is that she is trying to include women in the conversation. She is very explicitly feminist in her approach, which isn't bad, of course. I do think it's interesting. She definitely has, pardon the expression, but an axe to grind with this. Apparently, according to her, there have been very old-fashioned ideas in Egyptian archaeology that have endured since the 19th century, through the 20th century, and even today, that women had no part in warfare, that women would not have been using the weapons, that even if weapons are found within a female pharaoh's tomb, they're assumed to be votives and not meant to be used. Even though female pharaohs are also depicted, just like on the palette of King Narmer, of braining their victims with maces. So she is looking at that, and part of her approach to the experimental archaeology was to see if the damage was any different on pig carcasses, is what they used, with the weapons, whether it was a male who wielded it or a female. Which I understand her purpose in that. It seems kind of ridiculous, though. Honestly, it seems like something that doesn't really need to be done. If my wife came at me with a hammer, I would definitely be in fear for my life. I would not doubt the fact that she could end my life with the blow of a mace to my head. So I feel like it's kind of unfortunate in that respect. I expect a khopesh, which is a sickle sword, basically. Find a picture of it right here. That is what she is wielding in that picture. I expect that, with a razor edge to be doing all kinds of damage, whether a female is wielding it or not. I kind of wish that they also looked at other things, like how durable were the weapons? Comparing the copper to the bronze. Was there any edge damage using a khopesh against various materials that an Egyptian warrior might have gone against? I kind of wish that sort of thing had been addressed in this. It did make me realize that, at least in terms of archaeology and the experimental archaeology, the Egyptian archaeology tends to be at least decades behind a lot of what the European medieval archaeology has been doing, which I found surprising. But otherwise, pretty good book. A little bit repetitive in parts, but I'm glad I read it, and it definitely offered me some pretty good insight into Egyptian warfare and weaponry. Then I began reading, and I'm a little over halfway through, The Knights of Bushido, by Lord Russell of Liverpool, a history of Japanese war crimes during World War II. I think originally called A Short History of Japanese War Crimes. This was originally published in 1958. Russell had written a few years before that, The Scourge of the Swastika. He was involved in the Nuremberg trials, in the Tokyo trial, the tribunals. He was basically a British lawyer. He was part of the legal team. And, I know when The Scourge of the Swastika came out in the mid-50s, people kind of blamed him for capitalizing and trying to profit from tragedy. And obviously that did not deter him, and he came out with this. And it is an account of all the horrible things that the Japanese military did to allies, whether it be American, British, Australian, Indian, Chinese, what they did to the people that they conquered and took in as prisoners of war. And it's harrowing stuff. This is not a fun read. I know that when I'm done with this, I'm going to need a palate cleanser. maybe I'll read that Narnia book I was planning on reading. So incredibly important. It is offering me definitely some insight, which I find very valuable. He does talk about how there were two concepts that drove a lot of these terrible acts, and there were two principles: Hako Ichiyu and Kodo. The first one was making the world one big family, and the second one meant that can only be obtained through loyalty to the emperor. And he kind of connects those two things as being at the heart of a lot of what went wrong in the chain of command. And I'm still reading it. It is really kind of just a laundry list of terrible things that happen to people. So not easy reading, but I do find it historically important to read about these things and to better understand a nation which I do want to understand more, Japan, who I have a lot of respect for. There's a lot of things I like about them, but I don't want to ignore the darker past, just like I don't ignore my own country's darker past. And that's it as far as reading. I have started reading Matilda with my son. We didn't get too far yet, but I did start reading that. As far as watching on my horror discussion podcast, the HORRORCAST, we just recently filmed an episode looking at 1971's The Velvet Vampire by Stephanie Rothman, one of the only female directors working during the 70s in exploitation or otherwise. And then we looked at 1987's Near Dark by Catherine Bigelow. This was a kind of a continuation of Women in Horror Month, which is in February. So even though we're in March, where we're still carrying over, we got behind our schedule. And The Velvet Vampire, interesting, not one I can highly recommend. Near Dark, a flawed but entertaining movie. So if you're interested in that discussion, I think it will be posted this weekend, and be on the lookout for that. Another movie that I watched last night within the horror genre that I think is like for $20 rental right now is Willy's Wonderland, starring and also I think co-produced by Nicolas Cage. It's sort of a take on what they did with the Banana Splits movie a few years ago, where you have like the animatronic, like Chuck E. Cheese type things, or I think there's another one out west, like a party pizza or something. I don't think we had that in our area. We had Chuck E. Cheese around here. We had the animatronic puppetry that would sing, and you go there and eat a bunch of pizza as a kid, have a birthday party there, and it's on the same take where those things become evil somehow and start killing people. And I think Willy's Wonderland wanted to be a lot more fun than it ended up being. I was honestly not a big fan. Too little story, too much shaky cam to hide its budget. So I do not recommend spending $20 on that film. If it gets a lot cheaper and it still sounds intriguing to you, check it out when it's cheaper. That's my recommendation. But just to wrap up, I did want to shout out a couple of other YouTubers, people who they have unexpectedly shouted out me, and I've really enjoyed their content. The first one is Steve Talks About Books and Stuff. He talks horror, sci-fi, fantasy. He's much more prolific in creating videos than I am. But he's got such a nice, very even, very chill tone. And I find his discussions very well considered. I think it's how he phrased it. He really puts a lot of thought into it, and I really appreciate that. And there's a brand new YouTuber from the last couple of days, Mark, over at Book Time with Elvis. not Elvis Presley, Elvis's dog. He's a British expat living in the Czech Republic, living and teaching there. So it's always great to meet a fellow teacher. And he's also been posting some videos about the area where he lives and works. And that's great. And, you know, just like me, we all need to get outside, especially at these times as things are warming up, not warm enough. I'll see if I freeze enough before I attempt to make another video. I'm not sure. The other videos might be from my desk. We'll see. But anyway, that's it for Fresh Red Kills this time. All right. Thank you, BookTube.